Hear ye, hear ye. The time for the Clash Royale League is at hand. Today, in North America, the second-ranked laser-focused Cloud9 takes aim to fend off third-ranked Immortals. Close at their heels, will it be a victory for Crap and the surging Immortals? Or can Wings keep Cloud9 flying high? Only a duel can decide it.
Hello, welcome to Clash Royale League. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. I know we are here, and Andrew Guy and I are ready to bring you some fantastic matches in the North American region. The standings are oh so tight as we wrap up this fourth week.
Yeah, we'll hop into our second match first, which is NRG going against 100 Thieves, the two at the very bottom of our standings at 7th and 8th place. Going to battle it out. Even with the win, 100 Thieves has still got a lot of work to do. And of course, the match coming up right now, Cloud9 and Immortals, number 2 and number 3. These guys are battling it out for that second place spot. It seems like complexity is slightly pulled away, but that does not mean that one of these two teams can't be in first place by the end of the season.
And Andrew, Cloud9's roster is just made up of some fantastic players. Pretty much every single guy on that lineup is someone you'd be afraid to see in your own ladder climb.
Yeah, absolutely. You get into it. We got Trainer Chris, C. McHugh, Wings, and Baron, guys that have all proven themselves here in CRL. And on the other side of it, their opponents, Immortals, coming off of a win over CLG. We've got Royal, oh yeah, the God RF, and crap.
These two teams battling for those oh-so-important top 4 spots to go to the playoffs. The winner of the playoffs, of course, goes to the World Finals. And one of those guys who's been making a big difference for Immortals is standing by. Christy St. John has crap.
Thanks, guys. Crap. So both Immortals and Cloud9 on a win streak. Baron told me last time they're working on their 2v2, so how do you expect to do against them in that format?
We expect to do pretty well. They're a very strong team, especially mechanically. So we've had to prepare a lot for them, but we're really excited. We have a few things that we're really excited to pull out, and we're just ready.
Got some tricks up your sleeve, huh?
Yeah.
Certainly talking to Cloud9 before the match, it sounds like they tend to prepare overall. They don't prepare team specific. So what have you learned when studying your opponent?
We learned that they have, they're just a really strong team. They have a few weaknesses that we're hoping to make sure. We're really excited. We think we can beat them, and hopefully we do.
All right. And I have to say, I appreciate you repping the pink, by the way. It's a hard battle to fight, and we got to fight it together. So thanks, and back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. Crap, clearly rethinking some of those admissions.
Yeah.
You know he had stuff queued up. He's like, well, I think that we have I don't want to say that.
I don't want to tell. I don't want to give away my strategy, which, honestly, we can do nothing but respect his gamesmanship.
Look, if you want to know some of their strategy, guess what? We have a look inside as they're preparing their lineups and card bans. Let's go inside the war rooms.
All right, boys. Well, we're here again in our favorite room. Welcome to the blue room. This is Cloud9's room.
Blue pillow.
Blue pillows, yes. Well, let's just go out there and win again. We're on a good streak. It's an important match, obviously, not because of who we're playing, but because of the standings. We've prepared in the day we've had between this one and the other one. And I'm confident, you guys confident in everything, I'm sure. Let's go out there and play our game. Let's not worry about what they're doing. We have our decks, we have what we want, we know our bans. Let's go out there and win. Chris, you want to say something to the team?
After we win, I'll give a speech.
All right, sounds like a plan. Chris is giving a speech post-game. When we don't need it anymore. All right, guys, let's just go out there and win.
You guys have your decks ready, man. It's all about just going out there and being calm. Like, we know that 2v2 is less matchup dependent than anything else is, so just communicate. That's literally, that's the only thing you can really go into a 2v2 game, like, emphasizing. It's the communication part of it. Yep. As far as 1v1s go, like, we've prepared, and at this point, all that matters is whether we get the right matchups and whether or not you show up, you know?
Yeah.
So that's all we have to worry about. Just communication and just playing the game the way you've been playing it for the last year of your life. A little bit better, though. Let's do it, boys.
4 kings, 32 cards, absolute mayhem on the battlefield. You guessed it, 2v2 time is here. Cloud9 and Immortals, send your tandems down the tunnel.
Very interesting notes in the war rooms there, Andrew.
Yep.
Of course, over on Cloud9's side, expressing the idea that they're way more worried about the rankings than they are about the guys in front of them. But even with Wings and Baron, they have some pretty big people in front of them right now in 2v2.
Absolutely, and I don't agree because the rankings are going to be affected by these guys right in front of them, their opponents, who they need to focus on, the God RF and crap. Coming off of a win, like I said, over CLG, these guys want it. Second and third place, Cloud9 believes that they would have beaten Complexity had they had more time to prep before their very first match, and Immortals knows that they deserve to be in that #1 spot. These two teams are going to duke it out today.
The card bans here, Tornado, a common one here, but of course now the Lava Hound, we've seen this more and more lately in 2v2.
I think we've seen it in almost every single match in Week 4 being banned, and the reason why is we've seen how detrimental it is. There's so many ground responses with the Prince and things like that, but with the Inferno Dragon usually being taken off the table, the Lava Hound has been so effective.
The battle for second place taking here right now, 2v2 on its way. Here we go, set number 1, Immortals, crap, and the God RF at the top of your screen. At the bottom, Cloud9's Wings and Baron. And Andrew, talking about those war rooms, you know, if Cloud9's not looking at the people across from them, I think Immortals is taking them both very seriously, but you saw Trainer Luis a little more serious, a little more reserved this time in the war room.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting down to, like you said, we're halfway through the season, Rich. Every single win and loss is even more heavy and impactful than it was a few weeks ago, and both of these teams are coming off 2v2 set wins, so overlooking your opponent, I think, is a huge mistake. A mistake that a lot of teams made early in the season with teams like SK and teams like G2.
Not just 2v2 set wins, Cloud9 coming off a sweep in 2v2, I think their first ever 2v2 set victory, and Wings, of course, that brilliant sweep of TSM in King of the Hill.
Yeah, an incredible performance in King of the Hill for him. And an interesting note, Royal on the other side of that is dying to get his 1v1 chops. He wants to get more reps in King of the Hill or in his 1v1 sets, so we'll see if that actually happens today.
I spoke with the God RF today, Andrew, before the 2v2 match, and he says he's really enjoying 2v2. He loves the preparation aspect. He thinks he can control the outcome more in 2v2, but just like Royal, who's been showing off those 1v1 chops, the God RF has yet to show any King of the Hill or any head-to-head matches whatsoever. Which
I'm very curious to see how he does there, knowing that he's really kind of become a specialist in 2v2. It's always exciting to see how those skills translate over to 1v1.
Well, of course, the God RF, no neophyte in 1v1, definitely has those skills as well, but right now has to worry about 2v2 as the balloon gets to the tower, gets a full drop. Wow, the balloon golem combination, so no Lava Hound, no problem for a balloon deck.
Yeah, we've seen that more and more as that Lava Hound's been taken off the table. It doesn't really matter. All you need is a tank in front of your balloon, and the golem will do that just fine.
And here we go, the Royal Hogs looking to split, but getting picked up by the Tombstone. Nice work, and now 2 Princes, probably too many from anyone else's perspective.
Yeah, and you know, you always see this happen early on. Well, not always, but when this does happen early on in 2v2, we usually feel like, all right, it looks like Immortals is going to run away with the first one, but if we've learned anything from the last 4 weeks, Rich, is that anything can happen in the last few seconds, whether it's 5 HP, 11, or 184. It's not over until it's over.
So Cloud9 doing their best to get 1 tower back, but Immortals in a good position, although right now lots of damage on the right-hand tower. That Magic Archer going from way downtown to support that push.
Yeah, and a great fireball there and Log to clean up the first Prince, but this is going to be a big push to stop. Are they going to be able to stop that balloon?
Nice work with the Skeletons picking up the Prince and saving that Electro Wizard, but looks like they're still going to get tower here.
Yep.
So 1 down, it's going to be a second most likely, and that is it. Crap, and the God RF showing off here, and the 2v2 woes maybe coming back here for Cloud9.
Now you can see maybe why Crap did not want to divulge all the information in his pregame interview, because whatever they had up their sleeve just worked. And as you see, that balloon coupled with the golem here on that very first push, C9 just did not have a response for it. They didn't have an answer. They had the Inferno Dragon, but they didn't stop the balloon.
You know, speaking with Cloud9 manager Ian Houston before the match, he said that one of the things for 2v2 that they found challenging is predicting the interactions between cards. And, you know, it becomes a question of really, like, what's your approach been like to 2v2? Of course, with more moving pieces, those interactions might be harder to predict. But then again, also, as you learn them more, you might see them more as well.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you'll see something in a 1v1 match. You're like, the most that can happen is like 6 units come up. But in 2v2, 20 just pop up sometimes.
Yeah, with so many cards, there's so many new interactions. Not only that, but with so much more traffic also can make things move in ways you didn't expect.
Yeah, and then you saw yesterday, or the other day, I always get confused, that Complexity using that new 2v2 meta with the skeleton barrels and the clones, and you know that their opponents had no way of actually gauging when things were going to go off and which ones to pick up with their spells, and it really just becomes a way of how do you catch your opponent the most off guard in 2v2.
Well, getting back to what the God RF says is interesting philosophy. So you have on one side Cloud9, their manager saying they find things harder to predict. On the other side, you have the God RF, who's been so successful here in 2v2, saying that he likes it because he feels like he can control it more.
Now, Cloud9's doing great, and I am not their coach, nor am I their manager, and they probably wouldn't want to listen to me anyway, but I do definitely enjoy the sentiments of the God RF more in that situation.
Well, it's worked out for him so far, and now here we are. The Inferno Dragon getting on tower a little bit more probably than they'd hoped.
Yeah. Surprisingly getting it all the way down the lane with full health.
The giant skeleton trying to block that golem, and it will at least hold it up here.
It'll stop all those bats. And that's why that Death Bomb and the giant skeleton are so effective in 2v2. That one card cleaning up so much.
It seems like every time Immortals stops a golem push, though, Andrew, there is another one already queued up behind their King Tower.
Yeah, you wonder if Cloud9 should actually maybe pump the brakes a little bit and then try to get the double golem push coming instead of sending one down the lane at a time. And one golem at a time is much more manageable than two.
Well, but that raises an interesting question then, Andrew, is does this one golem strategy continue to make it so that they have to respond and spend all their defensive troops? And look, here we go. It's paying off, getting the tower on the right-hand side.
Absolutely. It must be the non-relenting of C9 that the Immortals can just not keep up with. Now, they have the Prince, and they have the Giant Skeleton to clean up, and they have the one Inferno Dragon, but you got to make sure those units stay alive long enough to get the greatest amount of utility out of them.
It's golem after golem, and now in the other side, Immortals, while they have a good push developing, they still have to defend that left-hand tower.
Yeah, they really do. They don't have the luxury of being able to
but look
commit.
at this. The Tombstone does not pick up the giant skeleton, so as soon as that drops, already in Death Bomb range,
wow.
Big mistake there. And while they still have a good push going on the left-hand side, they kind of gave up that right tower.
Yeah, that's a huge break that they just cut there. Now, Immortals feeling awesome being back in the game. Like you said, they didn't even need to focus on that push anymore. The Giant Skelly had it taken care of, and now they are literally back to being basically at 0-0.
And that Death Bomb doing some good damage on the King Tower as well, so Immortals hoping to take that gift and ride it all the way to the holidays.
And this Death Bomb is going to be huge right here. They're all going to come right on top of the tower. Oh, it doesn't even matter. It's all cleaned up.
But the relentless cycling of golems, and this is interesting, Andrew. We've seen double golem played a lot, but we've seen a lot of the double golem pushes. But just as you said, the relentless cycling of golems. You just keep on going. Oh my gosh, I got one down. Here's another one. Here's another one.
Yeah, and they're going to keep doing this, like bashing the golems against each other. I wonder if Immortals is going to try maybe a sneaky miner plus balloon on the King Tower at some point.
Very possible. I haven't seen the balloon come out in a little while there, Andrew, so maybe almost kind of hoping to lull their opponents into a bit of a sleep here.
Yeah, maybe they're hoping that that C9 forgets, and there's the balloon again with the Giant Skelly in front and the Inferno Dragon between. This is a great chance to, well, nope, that lightning coming in. Brutal.
The lightning cleaned it up with the Night Witch behind it, so right now that golem after golem after golem working out pretty well here for Cloud9, and we are pretty deep into our sudden death overtime, already more than a minute, and Cloud9 still putting Immortals in the defensive territory.
Yeah, like I said, I really am curious to see if they're going to try like a minor balloon sneaking on the King Tower, because right now it seems like both of these teams are playing too good a defense to break through.
Could that be quite that moment there, Andrew, if we did get a sneak in on that other side. And now, yes, we do see the skeleton, the giant skeleton drop. We'll get that Mega Minion out of the way, but with the Inferno Dragon, we'll mitigate most of the damage. Well, actually, not that much. Now down under 1,300 is under 1,200 the left-hand tower here, Cloud9.
Yeah, that big golem getting on the tower is a lot worse than a Lava Hound getting on the tower. That golem hits hard.
Magic Archer from distance doing his job, but we are still going to see possibly, no, again, it's just that's part of the thing with 2v2. You talked about predicting those interactions. and how many cards there are on the board. And Immortals having a quick enough deck, despite a Golem deck, to continuously have defensive answers.
Yeah, they have so many defensive responses, and now we're going to see how they respond to I was going to say the Golem in the pocket, but they're going to use a cannon to pull it away, and that should go, I was going to say it should go towards their King Tower, but it's not. This could be game right now. That could be a missed pull. That's a missed pull, and that's going to be it.
And now with the poison on it, wow. And Andrew, you called it perfectly. Did not quite get that Golem onto the King Tower. And such an important issue. But although could this balloon just think sneaky here in the last second? No, we're going to get a spell down before that happens. Trying to cycle out on the left-hand tower, but not quick enough for that log. And it is Cloud9 sending us to a Game 3 here in 2v2.
We have talked so many times about missed pulls, and here's the first missed pull with the Tombstone at not getting the Giant Skeleton, allowing it to take the tower by itself. And then at the end of the match, we had another missed pull, which is crazy, ends up costing them the game. And there you can see this Golem coming back is due to them not placing the cannon far enough away from the center to the right, excuse me, and that Golem just walks straight up to their Princess Tower.
And there we go. You see how much these guys spent here trying to get this thing done. But in the end, it was still Cloud9 able to take it away, and the spells were a big part of that.
Yeah, 20 more elixirs spent by Cloud9 than Immortals. Now, obviously, throughout the match, it's hard to gauge whether how important or effective that is, but afterwards, seeing 20 more elixirs spent, you got to think it played a part.
All right, here we go. Game number 3. Can Cloud9 continue their current one-game 2v2 streak? Game number 3 on its way, and very curious to see what they have in store. You know, I'd had a little tip that Immortals was going to run something a little bit off meta, a little off center today. So far, have not seen anything super crazy. Although that first deck we had today from them was a little bit faster than we expected.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You look at the table and you see all these princes in play. Such a powerful card with that new buff, getting a little bit of health. The damage though is so great to take down tanks and create strong counter pushes.
The princes say hello on the right-hand side in territory, but it's a Golem push trying to break through. And with the log cleaned up, the Golemites will get tower here.
Yeah, kind of a walk through that. Those bats are going to do damage. Okay, the Inferno Dragon is going to come in, but still, just a second late.
And that bat's still chipping away at the Inferno Dragon, so he's not going to have much going across on the other side. And down to 1786, both of the towers for Immortals now, down pretty significantly. And you can see what's developing right now for Immortals, kind of a week 1 meta deck.
Yeah, I mean, that Giant Skelly in front of the Golem has been proven well because when the Giant Skeleton dies, that bomb's going to clean up. However, that was, like you said, a week 1 meta. The teams have evolved since then. You wonder if there's a reason why.
Well, and take a look at what's also in the top right-hand corner of your screen there. Right? So now we're going really far back into the week 1 meta. But that Golem not going to get far enough to make that pay off. Right now, it's Immortals trying to defend and not having the best run of it.
No, they need one more troop coming down. That's good. The Night Witch is going to help with those bats coming in. But I agree. Maybe it's, you know, if you look at the hand of the God RF, it's like maybe people forgot about this, you know, Golem Graveyard Freeze because it hasn't been run as much in the last week. Who knows if they're going to actually be able to catch them off guard. However, dropping your freeze right there, all of a sudden, now it shows your hand. You don't have that ace up the sleeve anymore.
It's no longer a big surprise, but it does stop this push pretty much in its tracks. So as we're entering double elixir time, you might call it a desperation freeze, but it did do its job.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the better choice because they saved their tower from taking any damage. It's just, it's one of the best things about freeze is catching your opponents off guard with it. And when you have to use it defensively, you really use one of the best things about that card.
Tombstone on the inside to pull that Golem over. Now, interesting, that Golem getting pulled way far over, all the way away from the Inferno Dragon.
And I was going to say that poison was a little high, not cleaning up C9's Night Witch there, but the Golem actually pushed the Night Witch back into it, so it was a very good poison.
So the tower down to 648, and at this point, Cloud9, with almost no damage to either one of their towers, might be in a situation where they can defend and spell cycle.
And you see the desperation play by Immortals here, coming in with the Prince in the Graveyard. It's not going to be enough. There's too much on the left-hand side, and C9 is going to take this 2v2 set.
Good game coming from Immortals. They know that is it. And, you know, they talked a little bit beforehand about running this something kind of unpredictable, something kind of new. And here they go with something almost unpredictably old here for CRL, and it does not pay off for them.
Yeah, the very first match for them went very well, but just could not keep up with Cloud9. And you see, here's the desperation play at the very end. Usually that means a team has recognized it's gonna lose. There's the only way that we can win this is by sneaking in a Princess Tower steal, but Cloud9 was like, not gonna happen, not today.
Fantastic work from Baron and Wings, both players improving their 2v2 records, and more importantly, giving Cloud9 a significant cushion here going into 1v1, where they have one of their best players up against one of the guys who's been killing it in 1v1, and that's Royal from Immortals.
Yes, Royal from Immortals is now 3-1 in 1v1 and 6-2 in overall 1v1 games. And of course, CMQ, the king of the hill killer, is 9-3. However, in 1v1 sets, he's even at 1-1.
So here they go, everything happening right now. Can Immortals close this thing out? Or actually, sorry, can Immortals get this thing back? Or will Cloud9 close it out and continue what they say is their run for 13-1?
As your king, I am always listening to the people. I literally read every comment in the chat, guys. I'm talking to you, Primo Supremo. Well, let the people have what they want. 1v1, Royal and CMQ, now!
Coming out after not appearing in 1v1 last time, it is CMQ. And let me tell you right now, Andrew, his squad has so much confidence in this guy as one of the best in the world.
Yeah, I mean, CMQ, as I said, 9-3 in King of the Hill, 1-1 in 1v1 sets. However, he's such a versatile player. There's any deck he can come out with. We've seen him run Graveyard, we've seen him run Golem, and then Royal, 3-1 in 1v1 sets. He has just been killing it. Hasn't even had to show up in King of the Hill, but we know in a head-to-head play, he is no one to be messed with.
And for our card bans, active for all potential 3 games, it is P.E.K.K.A. and Tornado.
Yeah, you wonder if the P.E.K.K.A. is getting taken out because Razor created that deck that's been popping up all over online, that bridge spam P.E.K.K.A. deck with the Zappies. And P.E.K.K.A. is just such a strong counter to Golem and Giant. You think getting it out of the way is just a nice thing to do.
So here we go. CMQ trying to get things back after a tough 1v1 outing in his last time up against Royal, who is surging right now. Set number 2 on its way. Royal top of your screen, Cloud9, CMQ at the bottom. And Andrew, continue that same thought we were dealing with before. I was talking to manager Ian Houston of Cloud9 before our match today, and he said they are very confident in CMQ, even with that tough sweep against Vulcan. And one of the points he made was that he was in a situation where there was a pretty bad matchup against a Lava Loon deck, and he still took 2 towers in that situation. And he was like, that shows you how good CMQ actually is.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it many times. Matchup is very, very important in 1v1 matches. Now, it can really change the weight of the entire game, whereas in 2v2, it leaves a little bit more freedom for gameplay mistakes and communication and teamwork to come in. Whereas in 1v1, if you have a bad matchup and you just don't have the cards there, you're kind of just in an uphill battle.
Of course, great play can overcome any deck disparity. It's, as I've said before, it's not the deck, it's the player.
Yep.
But certainly the deck can make things harder or easier for a player.
Completely.
So as the first minute goes away, the Furnace making its appearance here. We've seen it a couple times here in 1v1. Very interesting deck construction for CMQ.
Yeah, the Furnace is a really, really powerful card. I mean, those Fire Spirits being able to do splash damage, you know, just having to deal with a spawning unit that your opponent has that's going to do damage to your tower relentlessly. It's just a frustrating unit to play against.
Well, especially for a player playing Beatdown who wants to wait for a big elixir advantage for a push, you might have to eat a couple of Fire Spirits. You know, one of those will make it to your tower every time if not dealt with.
And you also know now there's going to be something that's going to pull your Giant every single time that's also going to be damaging your Giant.
So Furnace, Mega Minion, Prince, E-Wiz. Furnace, an interesting choice here. You know, some people like to pair that with Graveyard. Is it possible we're seeing that here?
I was going to say, we saw this iteration without the Prince and with the Cannon Cart for a while there with Graveyard. That's kind of what I was thinking, but honestly, it could be a lot of different things. Graveyard seems like the strongest choice.
So now we're in double elixir time, and Royal playing a little bit faster of a beatdown deck with the Giant rather than playing a Golem deck. And we are seeing it as Giant double Prince.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's got to be Graveyard because he sees the poison go down, and CMQ drops a Mega Minion at the river trying to take advantage of that poison being out of cycle.
So the Graveyard for CMQ doing some damage, getting picked up a little bit there by the Dark Prince. And of course the Giant double Prince deck A deck that disappeared for a while from the meta, making a resurgence with that recent Prince 5% buff to damage.
Oh, I hate it. It's one of my least favorite decks, the Giant Double Prince with the E-Wiz. Just so many responses, so tanky, so offensively strong as well. And as you see, CMQ is just overrun here. And I don't even really think he made many bad plays. It was just, you get that giant push, you get the Princes coming downhill, and it's just unstoppable.
And there you go. Royal going to take the first game here. CMQ throwing up a "don't worry, dude, I got you next time" poison at the end. Game number 1 in the books for the 19-year-old Romanian, who continues to be so nasty here in head-to-head matchups.
Yeah, you know, it doesn't matter that they really, really nerfed the Dark Prince when the regular Prince is that strong to make up for it. As you see, he's got 2 Dark Princes coming down. The tower's still tanking on the Golem. The E-Wiz is in the back resetting. It's just too much. CMQ's sitting there and he's like, what am I going to do? Nothing.
Nothing he could do in that moment there, Andrew. And now it's Royal who's in the driver's seat. And both these teams, interesting note here, Cloud9 has been to King of the Hill pretty much every single time, and they are just living in King of the Hill. Might as well build a house there. Whereas Immortals has yet to go to our 3rd and final set.
Yeah, which is interesting because you know, as you said, Cloud9 being there so many times and CMQ having such a positive record, they don't mind having to go to the 3rd set.
Game number 3 on its way. Or sorry, game number 2 on its way.
We get excited and ahead of ourselves here sometimes.
You know, sometimes you just sit here going like, oh my gosh, everything's on the line. And of course, it feels like that with the close action here. Royal having a great game number 1. CMQ showing small and fast to open up.
Yeah, you wonder, you know, CMQ really loves that Expo, both those cards, all 3 of these cards showing up in Expo decks, but also could be in a different graveyard deck. Now we see the Hunter.
And the Hunter, and now this is, these pieces also have been in that Royal Hog
Three
Musketeer deck as well. And it looks like we're seeing that same Giant Double Prince potentially coming from Royal.
Yeah, and the Hunter really a very strong response to the Giant. You see every single one of those shots takes away almost a quarter of its health. Again, Hunter, one of the favorite cards from pros out there.
Now with Valkyrie in this deck, I'm wondering if he's running the Three Musketeer, the classic Hog Rider Three Musketeer combination, with Valkyrie being a little bit more expensive in the deck.
Running the regular Hog because it's just a bit cheaper. Could be. Absolutely. I still really wonder how he's going to play against this deck that Royal has been playing so well. And there's the Royal Hogs and the split, which, again, I mean, he's got the Dark Prince to answer the Royal Hogs, and he's got the regular Prince to answer the single Hog Riders. So you just wonder if CMQ is kind of just wishing he picked a different deck. But that Royal Hog is actually going to town on that tower.
It's standing there. CMQ out to a significant lead at the midway point here in regulation time. Down to 1474 is that right-hand tower of Royal.
Now, you wonder if CMQ was planning on Royal running the exact same deck back, having such a great success. But we've also seen here at CRL, it's not a great idea to run the decks 2 times in a row unless it's to catch your opponent off guard.
And that becomes that mind game, Andrew, of, you know, will he do it again? Will he not do it again? And Royal having the 1 game in hand does have the advantage of, well, let me do this again and see if I can catch you. I know I played this very well.
Yeah, so let's see how you adjust, and maybe I take the L, and then I come back and take the set in 3 games.
So the Poison will take care of 2 of those Musketeers, and then the E-Wiz finishing them off. So now the E-Wiz getting a few shots at least, probably 2, maybe 3 on the right-hand side. Almost a third, not quite. But now again, those split Hog Push doing some damage here.
Yeah, he didn't have a lot of responses in the left-hand lane, and that Hunter's going to take out that Mega Minion. Oh, maybe not.
The Hunter
trade, wow.
Takes the Mega Minion and takes that tower down to 396. Very rare that you see a Hunter doing that much work on tower damage, but CMQ has to be very happy now with that choice.
Yeah, it's usually okay to let a Hunter come down the lane and shoot at your tower a couple times, even if it's by itself, but if it has anyone tanking for it and it gets close enough, it'll do a lot of damage.
So here we go. Royal now in a lot of trouble. He does have the elixir advantage right now, except for what's on the board, and now I don't know if he has enough to take care of this split lane push.
I just don't think so. I think CMQ can comfortably sit back. I was going to say he's probably got a fireball in his hand and just send those Royal Hogs until it's within spell cycle range.
CMQ getting it back for Cloud9, and now this is a very different story. Cloud9 one game away from sealing this thing and not going to King of the Hill.
And you see that breath of relief coming from C McHugh. Again, he has been so dominant in head-to-head play here, 11-6 overall, but he's still only 1-1 in 1v1 sets. So we know, everyone in this room knows that he wants to take this set and improve that record to show everyone he deserves to be here.
Well, the big question is, can Royal continue to improve his 1v1 record? Of course, 3-1 in this set overall. He's been a big part of Immortals' success, not letting things go to King of the Hill. But in this moment right now, that's where he wants to send it.
Yes, and they have to go to King of the Hill, but then you got to remember, C McHugh dominates in King of the Hill. Tough place to be in.
Now it's game number 3. Now the whole set's hanging in the balance. Either player can close this thing out. And, Andrew, you're mentioning how dominant C McHugh is in King of the Hill. Don't forget Wings coming off that fantastic sweep against TSM as well.
Yeah, Wings also 4-2 in King of the Hill. A lot of really strong players from Cloud9 are very happy to go to that third set. And like you said, Immortals, not a lot of experience.
Royal, again, saying beforehand he thought he was going to go up against Baron. And now here he is against C McHugh. And, talking about predictability, C McHugh now kicking the page from his opponent's book, running the same deck back-to-back.
Yeah, he was, and Royal wasn't taking a shot at C McHugh by any means, saying that Baron feels he is a more versatile player. Royal feels Baron is a more versatile player. However, C McHugh, like you said, switching it up, maybe taking a page out of his opponent's book, not being able to game him. And now I wonder if Royal's starting to second-guess what his original thought was.
So C McHugh throwing up this same Three Musketeers and Royal Hogs deck. You're looking at what Royal has this time. Is this a better deck matchup or worse than he just had in the last game?
He has a lot better immediate responses to those Musketeers with the Fireball, with the Royal Ghost, and the Rascals. All those can be dropped on the 2 Musketeers, and you won't have to worry about them. But, matchup doesn't always mean everything here. And if you look at C McHugh, he doesn't have the best responses to the Royal Hogs, and they're all going to get on the tower with that Royal Ghost. That's tower down.
That is huge. Getting the Fireball down, the tower down. Maybe, as we said, I spoke too soon.
Yeah, but
it's your turn this time.
You don't want to do that Fireball. Honestly, if I was C McHugh, I would have let that tower go. 470 health is going to go very quickly, and he would be at a better Elixir advantage, or in a better Elixir position right now, whereas now he's still down 3 Elixir and down a tower.
So you're saying he should have, if you were you would have held on and prepared your counter push?
Yes, I would have just eaten it, taken the loss, lost the tower, and then created a counter push. I could be wrong, but it appears that was not the best decision.
And the tower, as you said, going to go down anyway. The Royal Ghost, oh, not quite. And now it's my turn to think the tower's all the way down. This thing just does not want to fall.
Yeah, but at 38 health, again, you got to think that probably wasn't the best idea to allocate that Elixir, but he does have a great dual lane push coming. Great Fireball.
And that's that Fireball picking up that right-hand side, but the left side now has to figure out some way, and not a great way to answer those Musketeers there with that Bandit.
Yeah, well, so the idea is that C McHugh was going to try to log back the Royal Ghost so that the Musketeers locked onto the tower. Royal saw that, dropped the Bandit to tank for those Musketeers for a second, ended up cleaning up all the damage. Really heads-up play from both of the guys.
So here we are, 15 seconds left. It seems like all that Royal has to do is keep this off, and he can survive and win the set. The log comes down.
Yep.
That's going to be it. It is Royal once again. Good game thrown up by both players, 2 of the top in the world. Both top on the ladder, both top at CCGS, but today it's Royal who comes out first.
And now pushing Immortals to King of the Hill, exactly what they needed after that little bit of a rough start in their first 2v2 set. And here's that very first Royal Ghost on the tower, Royal Hogs coming in, just not a lot to respond to. C McHugh decides he hits 4, he sends in the Fireball. I think it's a misplay. He ends up losing the set. I don't know if that's the reason why, but I do truly believe he should have just let that tower go.
It's so hard to let that go, Andrew. No, it seemed like it was going to go down, and then I was like, oh, well, he didn't do it. And very, very good point. 4 Elixir to save what was practically a dead tower anyway. Although some of the thought process is that maybe you force your opponent to spend some more Elixir that direction, open up your lane. But again, you have a long game. You never know how things are going to fall out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if he was able to defend that tower again and it just stayed at 470 health, it would have been a great decision, because 470 health demands a couple spells. It demands you to commit to that lane. So I understand the thinking with C McHugh. Hindsight's 20/20, and we're sitting at the desk. I wouldn't have fireballed.
Well, the fireball did happen nonetheless, and now we are going to familiar territory for Cloud9, unfamiliar territory for Immortals. It is King of the Hill. Time for each team to nominate 3 players. Each player gets just one opportunity to show off their skills, and if one of these 2 teams can clear out all 3 from the other side, they win the set and the match, and a very important place in our standings as we get closer to our playoffs. And of course, we get new lineups, new card bans, all of that being decided right now inside the war rooms.
All right, boys, we're here again. This is our spot. We're used to it. Let's go out there and win. We're gonna make a change. Chris is gonna come in for Colin. You know how good you are, dude. Don't doubt yourself. None of us doubt you, so don't doubt yourself. I know everyone here knows how, like, you've been one of the best, so go out there and show it. Our lineups, Chris. Then we're gonna go with Wings and Baron to close us out. Hopefully you won't play again. NATO and Lava Hound, they're banned. Probably gonna try their P.E.K.K.A stuff, their P.E.K.K.A Zappy stuff. We know what they all like to run. We know them. We've played them a million times. Let's go out there, win again, keep our streak going. And yeah, we got this, boys.
You guys had a tough hand in the 2v2s. For that reason, we get to the King of the Hill. Great job. We're gonna go with RF to start it off. RF, you know exactly what to run. You have Royal in the middle, and then we have Crab at the end. A few things before you go into this. Remember that you guys are mechanically just as good as them. I know a lot of talk goes around about CMC and Baron and all them being these gods, but I honestly believe in all of you guys to be the best team that I could possibly think of. And with that being said, go in there and believe that yourselves, because at this point, all that matters right now is the decks you go in with and the confidence you have in yourself. Play patiently, and we got this.
Yep.
Okay? Let's do it, boys.
Hunters have hunted, and rascals have, rascaled? Is that a verb? Anyway, thus far, Immortals and Cloud9 have matched wits with wits and push with counter-push. Now there's nowhere left to hide. Only one will be left standing after King of the Hill.
The mood is tense here, folks. No joking, no laughing, no messing around. These teams know what's at stake, and they are ready for King of the Hill.
Yeah, we got trainer Chris coming out to start against the God RF. And ladies and gentlemen, this is not a mistake. C. McHugh is not in the King of the Hill lineup despite his dominant King of the Hill performance.
Well, trainer Chris and the God RF, another thing about them, neither has played a head-to-head game yet here at CRL, and the ban cards they're dealing with, Tornado and Lava Hound.
Kind of surprised to see Lava Hound being banned here in King of the Hill. Not a card that we've found to be unmanageable or like something that comes into so many different archetypes. It's really just one type of deck. So kind of surprised to see that ban.
So 2 players looking for their first head-to-head win. Will it be the God RF or Trainer Kiss to kick off King of the Hill?
The newly deemed Trainer Kiss.
You know what, Andrew? I'm going to go with it. Valentine's Day comes early this year. Trainer Chris up against the God RF. Here to lead off our King of the Hill again. Neither player appearing in head-to-head action so far at CRL. And of course, we know the God RF was chomping at the bit for this opportunity.
Yeah, he was dying. I misspoke at the beginning of the match. I meant to say the God RF. I said Royal. I'm sure I got reamed for it, but we can see now the God RF has got his opportunity to shine here in King of the Hill, and he's going to start off by splitting Rascals in the back.
So that single Rascal going to get one, not even one shot there off on the left-hand side, and we are seeing the very classic 3 Musketeer, probably Royal Hog deck coming from Trainer Chris.
Yep, and that Fireball coming in quick. Great response for the God RF's got to be feeling nice that he has that in his hand.
Fireball active, of course. Here's where it gets dicey, though, is you use the Fireball, and then what do you do about these split hog pushes? And that seemed pretty decent, though.
Yeah, the Royal Ghost is going to be great, and he's probably going to now try to use his Royal Ghost and his Hunter to clean up those hogs every single time.
But look at the right-hand tower of the God RF, by the way, right now, down to 982. That single Musketeer kind of escaping and doing a ton of damage on that tower.
Absolutely, and the MVP for Trainer Chris, that Valkyrie basically cleaned up that entire push that looked like it could be brutal with that Bandit dashing in.
But that Valkyrie's going to get cleaned up really nicely, and the God RF now out to a fairly significant elixir lead.
But a heavy damage deficit.
We are passing the midway point of regulation time, and despite the elixir lead, as you point out, the deficit, the damage deficit, although he does have damage on both towers now.
Yeah, and you've got to think for Trainer Chris, his last card is probably a spell, whereas the God RF's maybe a Ice Golem or a Mega Minion, not sure.
Yeah, very interesting deck construction here from the God RF, of course, getting those Royal Hogs out over and over again. But not one I think I don't remember seeing this deck yet here.
Yeah,
in CRL.
this is definitely a new deck composition that we've seen. He doesn't have enough responses in his hand. He's feeling the pain of those Royal Hogs. Even with the Log and the Royal Ghost, they're still breaking through.
But look at that Ghost. It was trying to pick up that Valkyrie, let those Hogs sneak through, and they will get a few hundred damage on that right-hand tower. Now down to 1448, 30 seconds left. Interesting, Inferno Dragon. And that might explain why we haven't seen it yet there, Andrew. Really, the only great card it responds to is the Valkyrie, and even that is kind of a mediocre move.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason that he's holding it in his hand, he didn't really have a reason to play it.
So this time, not worried about those two Musketeers on the left-hand side, focusing on that single on the right, doing everything he can to keep this tower alive as we move into sudden death.
So much elixir allocated right there to defend, and the Valkyrie and the Log here are probably going to be a lot quicker to clean up. Oh, but he switches up his defense. He goes Hunter and Skellies.
So Hunter and Skelly's doing a decent pickup, but now look at the left-hand side here, down to 863. The God RF now kind of making this very interesting. While he's down to 662, he has both towers of Trainer Chris under duress.
And now the split push from the God RF is much more threatening than it was before.
Now down under 900 on both sides. Has to deal with this Muskie on the left, but not even really. He can let that Musketeer do a lot of damage and not really be concerned. It's just about stopping this push, but they do
Great
get through.
Fireball.
Down to under 200. Now he has to do something before that Fireball gets back in cycle.
Yeah, I don't think he's got enough answers. We'll see right here.
There are 3 Hogs on the left-hand side. The Valkyrie trying to pick them up. Will it drop them quickly enough with the Log's help down to 509, down to 450? So it looks like we will. But a big
Ghost is on
swing
the tower.
here. He needs to just get that
girl
Fireball
Rascal,
back
though.
in cycle.
Wow.
What is going to happen here? We are so close to the 93.
Oh
That is
my
it.
gosh.
The God RF pulling it out from the very last second.
He could not get the defense. He could not play it as conservatively as he want. His defense was just not effective. Everything was dropped a half second too late or just not in the right position. And the God RF, in literally a spell away from doom, is able to keep the pressure up and steal a victory from Chris.
That tower was on 200, right? Yes, it was on 200.
Oh, yeah.
So just looking at this, I guess he didn't have the proper cycle card, so he gets that down, trying to pull it away, gets the skeletons down. But here's this big moment. You see the single Rascal there doing that, just with the what's he carrying? The slingshot, getting the damage on there, putting it into Log range, and that is it. Trainer Chris just a half second away from being able to win this thing.
And it really seemed like he had the game. It seemed like he could defend his way out. All he needed to do was one Fireball. I believe that it was probably back in his hand at that point. But the God RF, recognizing the situation he was in, did not take his foot off the gas. And wow, does he take that first game in this King of the Hill.
Trainer Chris down, Wings up next, coming off that big sweep. Can he do it again? Immortals God RF top of the screen, Wings taking the place of his teammate at the bottom. And those of you at home who sometimes think we dial up the drama too much, oh, there's no way, Rich and Andrew, they come back from this one. Yeah, well, look what just happened. 200, we're going, oh, Fireball, it has to be over, and it isn't. The God RF still alive here, showing why he is to be feared in head-to-head matchups.
Probably, the God RF probably running that great Princess Goblin bait, or Log bait deck with the Goblin Barrel. I cannot imagine what that must have felt like for the God RF, knowing that he was that close to losing, knowing all he could do was basically spam the bridge, but he did it so intelligently, those units making a huge impact taking that game from Trainer Chris.
And now gets a start from even again. A good feeling. You're like, I'm not fighting for my life the same way I was before. And the Goblin Gang Prince combination picking up the P.E.K.K.A very nicely here for the God RF.
Yeah, not a good place for Wings to be in at the moment.
And the Royal Ghost, we've seen the Royal Ghost sneak through so many times and change matches at the drop of a hat. One more time doing good work here for the God RF, and a Princess trying to clean up this push here, but aggroing onto the miner rather than the minions, and that right-hand tower now basically forfeit.
That miner placement and targeting was brutal. It appeared that the God RF was in a great position, because when you're playing a log bait deck, it's a battle of inches, not miles, and to get that much damage taken away that quickly was awesome for him. But then the counter push from Wings, taking his tower down to basically 400 health, never a position you want to be in playing log bait.
So the Miner P.E.K.K.A deck, possibly Poison as that last card, doing pretty well so far.
Yep.
And there is the Poison, doing a good job picking up those two back Rascals, the smaller little Rascals, and now it's going to be a, but here we go. Can he untarget all the way through? Picked up by the Miner, kind of a desperation last-moment defensive ploy, but now it's the right-hand tower of Wings getting nailed down.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Wings had a great start and was able to basically take that tower in the beginning. However, he doesn't have the greatest responses to the Goblin Barrel. I mean, he can Electro Whiz and Zap every single time, but that's a lot of elixir to spend on 3 for 6.
And now switching lanes is the God RF, putting pressure there. Really not worried about that P.E.K.K.A with how fast his deck can move.
Yeah, really, really great poison from Wings there. You recognize that he used it to clean up the Princess as well as all the other troops. The placement was perfect.
That Zap was huge, though. That's going to probably be it, unless he can find some way to distract the P.E.K.K.A. No, he's going to try to maybe look for one last attempt on the tower with the Prince.
Oh, and the P.E.K.K.A's back.
It is not going to be enough. The God RF saying good game. He had a good run, but Wings, even despite a couple of tough and scary moments, gets through this thing and wins it for Cloud9.
Yes, Wings continues his reign of dominance here in King of the Hill, moving through the God RF, and now Royal is up next, someone who we haven't seen in King of the Hill, however, has done great in 1v1 despite losing that set to CMQ. And here is that Miner, one of my favorite moves. Miner behind the tower, minions up front, such an incredible amount of damage for a really, really cheap interaction.
And you got to be feeling there for Royal, knowing if his Princess had picked up those minions instead, it'd be a very different story. But I'm sorry, for the God RF. But up next is Royal, who has been lights out in head-to-head matchups. So now we have a guy in Wings coming off of a King of the Hill sweep against Royal, who has been so dominant in 1v1, making his King of the Hill debut. Can he stand up to the pressure?
I mean, there's only one way to find out, and that's by hopping in to this next game.
Only 2 players left for each team, so both of these guys need to just get 2 wins to win not just the set, but also the match. And on paper, Andrew, 2 guys who are not dissimilar. Royal, of course, multiple-time top 10 on the ladder, top 5 at CCGS EU, and of course Wings with a #1 finish on the ladder and he's made top 5 as well at CCGS for North America.
Yeah, these guys have known each other in the battlefield many, many times before. They're very familiar with each other's play style, and it's really going to be about who can take advantage of their opponent the best here in this next game of King of the Hill.
So Royal showing bridge spam here in the opening moments. Wings taking it a little bit slower here.
Yeah, I mean, he could be... No, not that new Golem deck. Maybe 3 Musketeers once again.
Very possible. Again, showing a lot of his more defensive cards here in the opening moments as the first minute ticks away.
However, it could be that new Golem deck, but it's surprising with the Ice Golem in there.
And now the Zappies, we haven't seen many them played a lot lately. Ever since the last update, they've become a little slower in terms of their interactions. You know, now more of a response card rather than a split card.
Yeah, I mean, this looks exactly like that Razor P.E.K.K.A bridge spam deck that's been so effective here in CRL. I believe it hasn't had a loss yet, or maybe just one, which is a really crazy thing to say about a deck. That means basically when put in the hands of pros, when they play correctly and patiently enough, it's really about the patience with your P.E.K.K.A in that deck. It's basically unstoppable.
Reminder, your ban cards Lava Hound and Tornado, so no concern about either one of those. Wings waiting for his opponent to make a move here.
Graveyard? I want to figure it out.
It definitely has some graveyard elements to it, and if it is graveyard, looking at Royal's deck, what do you think of that?
Royal doesn't have the greatest responses to it, with the Zappies, I guess, and the Flying Machine being the best. I mean, you can drop the Electro Whiz right on top of it, and there's the graveyard. Okay. 3rd time's the charm.
Graveyard opposite lane.
And he drops the Electro Whiz right on top, like I said. It's a good response, not the best.
And now here we go. We do have the both the P.E.K.K.A. and the Ram coming down, so he's going to have to deal with both of those. The Ram getting picked up, the P.E.K.K.A. getting distracted by those skeletons and the Ice Whiz, but a lot being spent here, and a lot still coming down the lane.
Yeah, not exactly where Royal wanted to drop those Zappies right into that poison. Could be the reason why he's not taking a tower right now. However, I love that flying machine at the middle of the river play to clean up the tombstone. It always is a play that, or not always, but it's a play we see so much here at CRL. The pros doing it. Just a great usage of that card to clean up that tombstone that proves so detrimental to these decks.
Wings playing very conservatively, very slowly, choosing to wait and see his opponent's moves rather than try to get stuff on the board. And so far dealing fairly well, but this left-hand tower in a lot of trouble at 1041.
Yeah, a lot of trouble. He's got a downhill push. He's definitely going to stop it, but he's got to be feeling the pressure knowing that his tower is almost to triple digits.
And with the flying machine on the board, going to get taken out by that Mega Minion. Now, this might be probably the most important graveyard play of the entire game.
Yeah, and I believe it came in just a hair too soon, Rich. There was nothing tanking for it, so that way the tower immediately was targeting the skeletons, along with the bandit there will be enough to clean up, whereas normally the bandit is not a good response to graveyard.
The fireball cleaning that up, and the Zappies hoping to get those guards out of the way for the P.E.K.K.A. Not going to do it. But still, now here we are pretty even in Elixir. A slight tower lead for Royal. With a minute down into our sudden death overtime, it's a big question of who can assert dominance and decide where this game takes place. And now another graveyard coming down, this time with a little bit more to support, but getting stopped at the bridge by that flying machine.
Yep, and just that flying machine to stop those cards was enough time to get his Electro Wizard in and stop again most all the damage.
But very interesting. Take a look at this. Wings, despite getting these graveyard pushes getting picked up, still not falling significantly behind an Elixir because he's forcing such a big response.
Yeah, and if he can continue these same transactions over and over and over, who knows? He could actually come away with this. It's just going to take a lot of patient play from Wings, and honestly, Royal needs to probably make a mistake.
Well, remember also that we are in King of the Hill where there are no true draws, so with a minute 17 left, we are now looking at a lowest tower situation potentially.
Yep, and in that situation right now, this is a very, very close game. Both of these guys having big spells on the table to keep taking those towers down. Zap and Log in play as well. It's going to end up probably being a battle of spells after this next transaction, or this next encounter, or this push.
And keep in mind how close these two towers are, because if Royal can get it, if Wings can get it close enough but still be behind, there is a 15-point difference between Poison and Fireball as those big spells. So right now, he actually is in a great position. We need to get a couple hundred more damage out of Royal if he wants to win this thing.
Yeah, and that Fireball's going to come in, bringing him that much closer. He's probably going to stop this push, though. Although that Battle Ram is, the Battle Ram's going to be stopped, and he knows all he needs to do is get another Log down, another Poison, and he can comfortably take this with the damage lead. 25
seconds left. And behind by about 208 hit points is Wings, so a Fireball will not be enough. And now that's putting even out of the Fireball zap range with that Log down.
And now the Poison comes down, and that's going to be a good game. Poison takes 8 full seconds. Okay, wow, I was going to say, he's got to play defense, though.
He does have to play defense, but that's going to be it. The tower stands, but that is enough. Wings taking the victory, making some adjustments, and you have to wonder, Andrew, did he get to a point where he realized, oh wait, I don't have to drop this thing, I just have to make it lower than mine?
And you see right here, Rich, Wings doing everything he can to place everything at the bridge, nothing can cross, no more damage, and you gotta wonder, did he recognize that this was a battle of spell damage earlier than Royal?
And yeah, enough spell damage to get things done here. He knows he's ahead. And again, there's a point where that math comes in. You see your opponent has Zap and Fireball. You know you have Poison and Log.
Yeah.
For the same cost, you do more damage.
Right.
And so if we're talking a lowest tower battle at the end, there it is for Wings. And now, I don't know what happened in the match before that, but most recently, of course, Wings had that King of the Hill sweep against TSM. So right now, riding at least a 5-game victory in King of the Hill, up against Aw Crap, who, like his teammates, making his debut in this set. Can he get 2 in a row and save this thing for Immortals? So Crap stepping in at the top of the string of the screen. Wings looking for his second King of the Hill sweep in a row.
Yeah, Crap has appeared in only one 1v1 set, and he was swept. So he is an 0-2 head-to-head player. This is where he really needs to come through and shine for his team.
The poison getting across, played on the tombstone. Interesting choice there. Why would you put, not the poison, why would you put the miner on the tombstone like that if you're not trying to clear something out?
He must have Royal Hogs, maybe? I mean, he must, I guess it's the Giant.
Maybe it was a cycle play.
Yeah, it must have been. I'm not sure. I mean, the tombstone is not a big threat, you know, and if you put the Giant down the opposite lane, it's still not a big threat.
You know what is a big threat, and that is the balloon. We do have the Mega Minion up on top of it, so we will get just death damage, but now we know it's kind of getting classic here. It's a Giant Prince and Miner up against some sort of balloon deck. Not sure what's coming. Remember, Lava Hound is banned, so maybe a Miner balloon.
Yeah, and this is and there's the Miner. Yeah, this is one of those decks we've talked about here before in CRL. It's about getting that Giant across the river and getting the Miner on the tower. The Giant tanks for the Miner. The Miner does your majority of damage.
The Mega Minion does get one swing on the right-hand side, so now pretty even at the midway point of our regulation time. And the Miner here now just throwing it again. Wings seemingly being a little over aggressive with that Miner. And now, the Fireball
wow.
not picking up the
Fireball.
guards.
Yeah, that's a big misplay. I mean, obviously the damage isn't going to be too crazy, but that's just an Elixir mistake right there.
So the very aggressive Miner paying off, with the guards behind it. You're talking about the Giant taking for the Miner. Now it's the Miner taking for the guards. And kind of a very cheap push there gets a lot of value.
Yes, and this is more so what we're talking about. Poisoning the tombstone. Giant gets across, probably would send in the Miner had he not had to poison, and there's the Miner coming in now. And this is what it's all about. This is the bread and butter of that deck. Get the Miner on the tower. Now he just needs to worry about stopping that balloon. Great play by Crap to try to get the Miner to tank for the balloon with the Mega Minion, but the Mega Minion did not get distracted.
The balloon does get one drop, but the damage is done. Not only is his right-hand tower down, but Crap in very big danger here of being 3-crowned as well.
Yeah, that Giant in the pocket with that Hunter on the King Tower. There's no way he's going to walk away from this. That's going to be it.
This is, wow. Wings dropping the poison, and there you go. Do you like sweeps? Because this guy's doing it twice in a row. Crap knows he saw what happened, and it was just a couple little things there. And that was the beautiful versatility of that deck from Wings, showing the different ways to make his pushes happen with the exact same cards.
And we see the missed Fireball here. Could be the beginning of the end for Crap. Like I said, it wasn't the worst trade in Elixir or in damage, but it's a blow to your ego. And Cloud9 taking it on the shoulders of Wings 2 matches in a row. Incredible play by this athlete.
Unbelievable work. Wings now at least 6-0 in his last run in King of the Hill. I think now running himself up to 7-2 overall in this final set, which, with King of the Hill being so important for a team like Cloud9, who's been here so many times now, having guys like him, also see McHugh has a sweep, so there are so many guys you can turn to in crunch time.
Well, here's the thing, Rich, is it was a back-to-back or back-and-forth battle. They were just trading blows throughout the entire match. Set 1, set 2, and then this. The experience of Cloud9 and Wings and King of the Hill, those 3 sweeps, those 3 games happened like that. And that is where the experience comes into play.
So Wings going 5-0 today with those 2 wins in 2v2 and 3 more in King of the Hill. So, of course, he's standing by with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. Joined by Wings and his coach, Eric. Wings, I mean, you're so quiet in person and you speak so loudly on the battlefield. You're like the silent assassin. Are you feeling that momentum?
Yeah, I mean, I just went 3-0, so I'm definitely feeling surging.
Yeah, I have to ask you, in that second game against Royal, I mean, you played for a draw. When did you know that it was a battle of spells? And did you think you knew it earlier than your opponent?
He never really went too aggressive, so I knew I just had to play passive and spell him out, and it worked out.
Stopping him at the bridge feels good. And you feeling good in the standings? Feeling confident?
Feeling great, obviously. Wings is a superstar, and I think he finally is going to get the recognition he deserves.
So most important question, what are you going to do to celebrate?
I'm going to take the boys out to Benihana today, so we're upgrading from Chick-fil-A. But Chick-fil-A is still really good.
Both good choices. Back to you guys.
Don't worry, Chick-fil-A. Eric protecting any sponsorship opportunities there that might come down the line for Cloud9. You know what, Benihana, also very tasty, but not as tasty as Wings play as he continues the run for Cloud9, who continues to say, we are going to go 13-1, and they take one more step in the right direction. Let's look at those standings.
Yeah, we hop into the standings here. Cloud9 at 5-1, just nipping at the toes and the heels of Complexity, trying to prove that 13-1 is real. And Immortals still happy being in third place, although probably not that happy that they are now tied for third with Tribe Gaming.
So a battle just took place at the top of our standings, and now time for a battle near the bottom. We have NRG, who's working really hard to move themselves in playoff contention, versus 100 Thieves, who still has yet to find a victory.
Don't pump those brakes. Keep your foot on the gas. Match 2 is now. In the tunnel, 100 Thieves, winless and absolutely desperate for their first CRL win. In their way, an NRG team showing signs of greatness. Does Eddie have what it takes to finally deliver a W? Or will Hazard prove a hazard? Only one way to find out.
Our last match of the week about to get underway, featuring two teams, NRG, looking to put themselves in the mix here in the middle of playoff contention, where the road to redemption a little bit longer for 100 Thieves.
Yes, absolutely. 100 Thieves at the very bottom of the standings, but today they're coming out with Eddie, Frost, and PT-105, and Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh making an appearance here in CRL when we weren't sure if he was ever going to show up. Their opponents, NRG, Carter, Hazard, Guanic, and of course Prashant PP, who made his debut last time that you saw NRG. Both of these teams coming off of losses. Now, 100 Thieves was swept by Complexity, and on the other side of that, you got NRG losing to Team Solo Mid. Both of them trying to bounce back today with this match.
Of course, TSM versus NRG, probably one of the best matches we've seen here at CRL. Some say that final game, one of the best they've ever seen, and a big part of that was for the 2v2 star and 1v1 standout Hazard, who is standing by with Christy St. John.
Thanks, guys. So tell me, I was talking to Eddie beforehand, and he said the most improved thing that he's had is nerve control. Would you say that you have one more most improved?
The thing I'd say I've most improved in is just communication with 2v2. Obviously, coming out in a big stage, like, you know, keeping your own cool is hard enough, but when you're, like, actually talking with someone else, you know, it can get a little nerve-wracking, but, you know, over time, we've become a lot more comfortable with it.
And you guys have been doing amazing in the 2v2, you and your partner. Carter, tell me, have you done anything outside the game to improve your synergy?
I think we just practice. I mean, we have a lot of the same interests. We're pretty close in age, so, like, I think just overall we mesh pretty well, so that definitely helps in the battlefield.
Yeah, great friends make great battle partners. Thanks, guys. Back to you.
Hazard and Carter have been fantastic in 2v2, really a joy to watch up against a 100 Thieves team looking to find their exact rhythm, thinking they have it here in their last match, bringing Gilgamesh into 2v2. But of course, they still have to set those lineups, figure out those card bans, and to find out more, let's go inside the war rooms.
Because I got the Genjutsu.
Okay, let's gather, gentlemen, once more into the fray. We are competitive professionals, and we live for this day. All right, Guanic seems ready, but Frost is readier. And their twos appear steady, but we have Eddie. We have been working more than 9 to 5, and it is high time that we make that our score. Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt. All right? We are here for our fans, and we are here for our would-be fans, which means we hear no haters. NRG has not paid the bills, and it's time to snuff out their lights. You guys know what to do. Hands in. 3, 2, 1. 100!
I've never seen weird people like Dog woof woof.
They say luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity. Well, both teams have prepared, and here's their opportunity. 100 Thieves and NRG send your 2v2 teams into the arena.
Both teams choosing to focus more on mentality rather than strategy here, Andrew, in the war rooms, but of course, very different approaches.
Yeah, you've got NRG there trying to calm down, get themselves loosened up for Carter and Hazard to take the floor, of course. And then you got 100 Thieves really buckling down. Woody, their manager, trying to inspire them. Eddie and Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is kind of the unsung sleeper hero of Team 100 Thieves. He was never even supposed to be in the lineup, but he made his debut in 2v2, and he's been bringing it. On the other side of that, like you said, Carter and Hazard are 4-2 in their 2v2 sets, really doing well despite NRG's negative record.
And for their card bans for all potential 3 games, and we've seen this, now we're seeing this a lot. Lava Hound, of course, been a big part of that ban, and also Tornado.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm wondering why we're never seeing Golem being banned. And maybe it's because a team doesn't want to take it out of their own arsenal, whereas like they can take out Lava Hound and you can still play a balloon behind the Golem. I'm assuming that's what it is, but I want to see a Golem ban, Rich.
I mean, I think a lot of people might, but the meta has been shifting pretty drastically, so we'll see what these teams have in store. Of course, we've seen 100 Thieves be very creative, very different. What do they do against the duo in Carter and Hazard?
I have Giant Skeleton next card, so
you know what? I'll do it.
You know, Rich, I had a little bit of time to talk to Gilgamesh before the match, and as I said, he was a coach and manager turned player. When one of their players was actually out of town, he just kind of stepped in and practiced and realized he had the absolute best synergy with Eddie over anyone else on their team, which I love. He's become their sleeper hero, if you will.
Well, a hero he looks to be once more. Playing from the bottom of the screen, Gilgamesh is with Eddie for 100 Thieves. At the top of the screen, NRG's Hazard and Carter.
We see a bridge spam variation, it looks like, over in Carter's hand, which is interesting. We haven't seen a lot of that here in 2v2. The P.E.K.K.A, yes, but the bridge spam kind of build, not so much.
The Poison trying to clean up the fence, but the Fireball gets in the way, even though out to a lead on the right-hand tower. Not quite getting all the things they wanted is 100 Thieves.
And again, I said this, I got to talk to Gilgamesh before the match, and him being a player, coach, and manager now has been talking about how 100 Thieves basically threw out their playbook for the first 3 weeks, which honestly wasn't working great for them because they were only focusing on themselves and what they needed to improve. However, since their last matches and since this last week, they've decided now to focus on NRG and their opponents and how to game the strategy of their opponents, not focusing on their own gameplay.
So Hazard and Carter switching things up a little bit here, putting a bunch of stuff behind the Giant Skeleton, although none of those being a Golem. So despite no Golem ban, it seems like that's not going to be part of the strategy here for either team.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's the very first time we've seen that because I don't like to speak like that, but I do believe we have not seen many 2v2s without one Golem showing up in any deck.
Well, interesting, you know, we're looking at the deck of Hazard and Carter, and there's a very clear game plan right now for Gilgamesh and Eddie, and that's get those Royal Hogs to the tower so far, getting that down to 877, trying to figure out what is the game plan here for NRG.
Yeah, you really need all 16 cards to work in unison, to work in synergy, to have that deck composition, all of it working together, whereas like you look at Eddie and Gilgamesh's hand, it's doing that. And you look over at NRG, Carter, and Hazard, not so much so far.
Now, I'm wondering if part of this plan is trying to get the Giant Skeleton all the way to tower. It's a pretty ambitious plan. We have not seen a ton of those here in CRL.
And they're doing such a great job, 100 Thieves, of stopping all of these pushes, really playing excellent, efficient, and conservative defense while stopping everything NRG has to throw at them, and they have enough elixir to create these great counter pushes.
So again, getting just one hit on tower this time. We are deep into double elixir time, about to go into sudden death. And really, NRG has not done much of anything on the offensive side of the board, playing a lot of defense and not holding that stoutly against those Royal Hog pushes.
Yeah, 100 Thieves really feeling the victory coming in. You can hear their bench celebrating already. Hopefully it's not too soon for them, but it does look like they've got it in the bag.
You know, even with this push here, unless something very drastic happens, And again, you see that if that Lumberjack had turned, maybe a little bit of help there, but now just within spell cycle range, it's going to be 100 Thieves, Gilgamesh, and Eddie. And you got to wonder now, is this really that synergy? Is this what's going to make 100 Thieves turn it around?
Look, they've tried every combination. They came out with Pure Frost so many times, and it just didn't work for them. Gilgamesh said they have the best communication above all, beyond all. And that's the most important thing, Rich, is we've seen over and over. You look at Complexity, you look at Case, you look at the best 2v2 players, and it's all about the communication during the match.
Well, the communication worked off well here. Almost picture-perfect defense on the part of 100 Thieves. Gilgamesh looking like he might be the key to turning things around for this team. Carter and Hazard, though, they have been in this spot before. Even though they are 4-2 in 2v2 overall, they still have 10 overall game wins. So these two know how to win together and know how to do it when they're under pressure.
Yeah, and that's also a very important position to know how to play from, is playing from behind. And NRG's Carter and Hazard are very, very good at that.
So what will happen here in game number 2? Is this the true magic for 100 Thieves? We'll find out.
Perfect, bro.
All right, sure.
A lot of energy coming from the bench of 100 Thieves, ironically enough, for this matchup. And, you know, interesting, we're seeing a couple of changes in decks from the top, but kind of a similar premise, it seems.
Yeah, and I love that. I love the energy of 100 Thieves, knowing, look, you can't come in defeated, even though you're having a really rough start to your season. You got to keep your head up. You got to pick your players up around you. You got to re-strategize your game plan and come out and take the first game. Hopefully take the second for them. Obviously, NRG is going to have something to say about that.
So now we are back to Golem again. So while we took a slight deviation from seeing that card on the board, here it makes an appearance, but nicely picked up by NRG's Hazard and Carter.
And I talked to you about the Royal Giant, I believe, at the end of last week or the beginning of this week, wondering when it's really going to make its appearance in 2v2, because if defended properly, is such a brutal card. I mean, you talk about the Miner getting right on the tower and doing 64 damage a hit. How about the Royal Giant being far away from the tower, doing even more?
It's so interesting, Andrew, because the Royal Giant's a card that in 1v1 will nearly always at least get a couple of hits.
Yes.
It's very hard to stop it from doing at least something to the tower. But here in 2v2, not a good example here because we're now down to 1309, but with so many more defensive cards, it seems like you can stop it much easier.
Yeah, between like both of the players usually having a log and a building, it's a lot easier to stop that Royal Giant, which is probably why we haven't seen it as much. But as we've seen in this last couple weeks of CRL, there are still new metas to be found and new archetypes that other teams haven't even thought of yet. You know, we saw that Complexity come out with that skeleton barrel clone, and in the first week we saw like the quadruple clone. So it's just interesting to see how that's going to be changing.
Now, interesting note here on the play style of NRG's Hazard and Carter. They know poison is in the hand of their opponents pretty consistently, but we've seen some very clumpy placements here at the bridge.
Yeah, it's and that all comes down to communication, Rich. We know that you never want to double place things, you never want to stack units on top of each other. However, this Royal Giant being raged up is probably going to take that tower. There it is.
There we go. So now with 45 seconds remaining, we are in double elixir time, and it is the Royal Giant deck of Hazard and Carter. Very similar in look to the deck they played the first time around. And I have to go see each card individually, but it feels like the primary change is taking that P.E.K.K.A. out and instead putting the Royal Giant.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting because the P.E.K.K.A. now would be so much more effective against the Golem. However, they still have a lot of responses to it, and that Royal Giant just being the MVP for NRG in the second game.
And here we go, now placing the Magic Archer a little bit further away, but still getting poison value is 100 Thieves taking the Magic Archer and the tower.
Yep, and NRG knows that they have now gotten this, and they're going to push it into game 3. 100 Thieves back up against the wall after a dominating game 1.
And there we go, Hazard and Carter staying cool under pressure. Andrew, I talked to Carter before our match, and he said that on how he's so calm under pressure is that he actually really enjoys the intensity. Some guys fall under the pressure. He used to be a basketball player. He's used to playing in front of people, and we've seen that. Some of the guys who are traditional sport athletes maybe thriving a bit more under the bright lights of the CRL stage.
Yeah, we've seen Adrian Piedra under the lights, being an ex-basketball player himself, dealing with that. And you see, again, both these replays are all about the Royal Giant and it doing damage. Look, if he even gets 2 2 to 3 shots off, it's done its work. It's okay. You can recycle back through, create another push, and that is not what Eddie and Gilgamesh wanted to see from 100 Thieves. So now you got to wonder. We've seen slight deck changes from both of them. It's worked well for 100 Thieves in the first game. It worked even better for NRG in the second. So what are these guys going to bring in the game that matters the most?
This is a huge one, and this is kind of a referendum maybe on this adding Gilgamesh in. Right now, he's 1-1 since he added the 2v2, and this is kind of going to tell us, is he really that magic piece, or was it just something nice that changed things for a moment?
I see this. Sure, let's go.
Each team has taken one game, and now we're down to our third NRG and 100 Thieves, both looking to take a big advantage here in this battle to get away from the bottom of the standings.
And both of their benches are electric. They know how important this first set is, and I love seeing the teammates supporting the players at the podium.
And again, going slightly traditional here is 100 Thieves, although I will say some of the cards we've seen typically in these Golem beatdown decks for 2v2 not showing up here so far.
Yeah, but we have seen this Golem, Baby Dragon, Lightning, Miner combination work out really, really well. And there goes the Miner. Baby Dragon's behind to clean up, and that Miner's just going to go to town on that tower.
The Miner chipping away, taking that tower now down to 1945. A little extra help here from the Golemite. The Baby Dragon getting taken off by the E-Wiz. And now the Lumberjack almost escapes, but a brilliant, really heads-up log play by 100 Thieves.
Yeah, great log plus skeletons to clean all that elixir up.
And now a Miner in return from NRG, picked up after a couple of swings by the Mini-Peck. So interesting, looks like Hazard and Carter running the same thing they just ran. And
I'm sorry, I was going to say, you heard them at the podium saying if they go for Golem, we're going to go for Skeleton Royal Giant at the bridge, and they called it right before the Golem came down, and now let's see if their plan's actually going to pay off.
And they reset the Inferno Dragon, or let that get reset, maybe I saw the wrong, no, I think that was them. Only getting a few hits, though, not quite getting as much as they wanted out of that push.
Yeah, their plan kind of backfired on them now, allocating all that elixir to an offensive push that they thought was going to clean up much better than it did. However, 100 Thieves coming in and really, really putting the pressure on.
That right-hand tower under some serious attack here on the right-hand side. Now down into real danger.
And a great kite with those skeletons, pulling the Mega Minion, keeping it off the tower. But you got to think that NRG feeling the pressure on that tower in the top, being in triple digits, and the Golem comes down. Let's see if they're going to recreate that same transaction with it. Yep, the Royal, you got to wonder, if it didn't work the first time, what did they change this time to make it better?
Well, they have to find some way to really deal with that Inferno Dragon. I don't know if the reset there was the right call. They get it down to under 1,200, but there is a lot coming down the lane here, and it looks like, yes, that is going to be tower for 100 Thieves.
Yep, they took it really well, and it just appeared that NRG's plan of basically countering the Golem by pushing the same lane with the Royal Giant and the Giant Skeleton just did not pay off in their books. They must have just kind of gamed it or strategized just a little bit off.
Well, they just did not have an answer for that Inferno Dragon. They had no way. They were resetting it. I think that second reset might have been a bit early, taking it off the Giant Skeleton, putting it onto the Royal Giant. You know, maybe I was a bit off on the timing there, but it seemed like that was a slight bit early there on the zap.
Yeah, and we saw there was a zap that came down just before the replay started, and the Inferno Dragon's on the Royal Giant. They're cleaning it up perfectly, but there's all these other units on the field and a lot of elixir, and there's just nothing to respond with for NRG. It just crazy, crazy play by these guys. It appears that Gilgamesh really is the secret weapon. Coach turned player when someone was out of town. I love it. Gilgamesh bringing home set number 1 for 100 Thieves.
Well, don't forget, pairing him with Eddie, a guy who Woody has said is one of the better players here. So now out of 1v1 into the 2v2 is Eddie. And up for the 1v1 coming up next, it's going to be Frost facing off against Guanic.
As the 1v1 showdown grows near, I have a question. Is it cold in here, or is that just Frost throwing shade? Guanic, what are you gonna do about it? Let's see what you've got in the arena!
Frost trying to make it colder in here. King, I don't know about you, but I am starting to sweat a little bit as the heat is turned up in this match. Frost and Guanic going head-to-head in 1v1.
Yeah, Frost still looking for his very first 1v1 set. However, in heads-up play, he is 2-3, so he's got 5 games under his belt. On the other side of that, you've got Guanic, who has a ton of experience under his belt here at CRL 1v1, but he's only 1-4 in 1v1 sets and 5-10 overall in head-to-head records. But again, that means he has tons of experience.
The same ban cards from 2v2 banned here in 1v1, although now it's switched. The opposite teams choosing to ban Tornado and Lava Hound.
Yeah. Again, that Lava Loon being dealt with, taking it out of play for the most part. But we have seen the Balloon pop into Valkyrie decks, Miner decks, and then with the Tornado, keeping that King Tower from being activated is so crucial with so many decks. I understand both these bans. I'm very curious to see how they're going to implement them today, Rich.
It's gonna be fascinating. Again, Guanic making his return to 1v1 after taking a break, and Frost, the new 1v1 guy for 100 Thieves. As we kick things off, NRG's Guanic at the top of your screen. At the bottom is 100 Thieves Frost.
And a sweep victory for 100 Thieves would be so huge for their confidence moving forward in CRL.
Very, very true here, Andrew. And now we're getting the Royal Hogs at the bridge. It seems the response here, not the best one, picking it up with the Log and Lumberjack.
Yeah, so we immediately think, what, Royal Hogs 3M on the bottom, on top, most likely Golem beatdown if you see a Lumberjack and a Baby Dragon. However, Goblin Gang could still be.
Very interesting makeup here from Frost. And one thing I was talking to Guanic about before the match is how unpredictable and strange it is playing 100 Thieves because they tend to go very off-meta. And I asked him, would you rather play against a meta deck that you know or an off-meta deck that might be weird in its synergy? And he said, meta all the way, I want to know what I'm up against.
Yeah, and it looks like he's not going to get that today with this slightly off-meta Royal Hogs deck with the Mini P.E.K.K.A. in there. Still curious to see what those other 3 cards are, but what a great push by Frost and an incredible stop by him as well.
So the off-meta magic working here for Frost so far. That right-hand tower down to 413 and defending fairly well on the left-hand side despite giving up a few hundred damage.
That Mini P.E.K.K.A. is so powerful. A lot of people forget how great that card really is, and it's so cheap at 4 elixir. Just a tank killer.
So Andrew, of course, Frost, Guanic has to defend here on the left-hand side. Do you think that he mounts his next Golem push in the right lane, though, with that tower being so low?
Well, he's in a really tough position. He does have Tombstone to pull the Hogs to the center, but the great things about the Royal Hogs against these beatdown decks is they can create dual lane pressure, which you never want to have to deal with when you are running a beatdown deck. And even this is a great play by Frost, spitting 3 to the left, the healthier tower, and just 1 to the right, the tower that's basically dead already.
Guanic now in a lot of trouble. As we enter double elixir time, usually the game time for a Golem deck, looks like he's having to give up that right-hand tower. So the question now is what happens here on the left-hand side?
Yeah, and a great use of dropping the Golem after your opponent's win condition is out of cycle. That's a really important thing to do because you never, ever want to drop your Golem and then they place their Hogs.
Look at there's so many swarm troops getting in the way. Wow.
And Guanic not having a Baby Dragon in cycle or the elixir to place it is really, really important because if he did, those would have all been cleaned up and he may have taken that tower.
And the Lightning here proving to be kind of a tough choice as the big spell because, again, with targeting only 3, not taking care of those Royal Hogs, in the cycle before that, pulled a couple of the shots away from the defensive troops he wanted to stop. And so far, it's Frost of 100 Thieves out to a fantastic start. Looking like he's going to close out game number 1 and put 100 Thieves just 3 to 6 minutes away from taking their very first victory here at CRL.
Yeah, Frost got a little lucky that log was not delayed by half a second and placed on top of his Goblin Gang, but really, really great play by him, keeping Guanic on his toes. You see the Royal Hogs coming in here, the dual lane pressure. You got the Mini P.E.K.K.A. just doing work on that Golem, and those Royal Hogs left unattended are going to take that tower down.
This is what Guanic was talking about why he wants to be against a meta deck rather than an off-meta deck. We've seen 100 Thieves take some weird risks with off-meta decks. Of course, there was the giant skeleton army play against that graveyard poison deck that was really challenging, and sometimes it has not paid off. But right here, you see why an off-meta deck can be so dangerous.
It had such great responses to that Golem. The Royal Hogs going down the lane, the Mini P.E.K.K.A. to cut it in half. Really, really great play by 100 Thieves. Let's see what happens next.
And here we go. Frost, if you take a look at your screen,
Just one more.
definitely feeling the pressure here a little bit in this position. He is one game away from getting 100 Thieves their very first win.
Despite his name being Frost, he may not have ice running through his veins, feeling the pressure, but that doesn't matter. Maybe the pressure is what makes him perform at the top of his game.
Now, Andrew, one of those things about debating off-meta versus on-meta, meaning non-traditional versus traditional decks, is an off-meta deck can be very powerful if it properly matches up. Like, often what they do is they will crush certain decks or get crushed by certain decks.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better myself, Rich, and that is what is so big about CRL and strategizing, is that these players, you saw 100 Thieves was focusing on their opponents now instead of focusing on their own players. Them gaming Guanic and NRG might be the reason why.
Talking about off-meta versus on-meta, you cannot go more on-meta than 2.6 Hog Cycle, probably one of the most well-known decks in all of Clash Royale. So Frost goes from one end playing a deck where you're like, what the heck is going on here, to playing a deck that probably everyone watching right now has gone up against and played with dozens of times.
Absolutely, and this is the thing about the 2.6 Hog Cycle deck, is every single pro should be stellar at playing it because it's the highest skill cap, free-to-play deck that can get you to the top of the ladder.
Well, not only is every pro pretty well-versed in playing it, every pro is most likely very well-versed in playing against it.
Great point there, yeah, because I've played against it 1,000 times, and these guys do this for a living.
So now with the first 2 minutes down, so far it is Frost out to a slight lead, but not an insurmountable moment, and now it's Guanic putting his own Hog Rider down the lane and does not get picked up. Wow.
And that's what I was going to say, is what's so powerful about the 2.6 Hog Cycle deck is you can cheaply defend basically anything. However, any mistake you make is so much more impactful because this deck, as I said, is one of the highest skill cap in the entire game.
So now not only does Guanic have the tower lead, he also has a slight elixir lead as well. And with the fireball being forced to spend on the princess, that lead is starting to grow.
Yeah, and you've got to know that Guanic here feels very comfortable knowing that Frost is not going to want to switch lanes and that Guanic is to continue to push into the weaker tower and protect his weak tower.
So that time the cannon picking up the Hog Rider, and this becomes a very interesting battle. Again, using that fireball to clean up the princess. You know, you want that princess off the board, but every time you're spending 4 to get rid of 3.
Yes, and you are getting tower damage, but it's on the wrong tower.
And now the predictive fireball, so we will get at least 1 swing, potentially 2 from the Hog Rider, but a beautiful log play, stops him right in his tracks.
And that fireball was excellent, as was the cannon placement, because you saw that Frost was trying to change up his cannon placement. However, Guanic still getting lucky and hitting it with the fireball.
And now Princess in the opposite lane, cleaning up that Hog. And the question, though, is, a missed fireball. So now maybe the pressure's starting to mount here for Frost in the waning moments.
Yeah, that princess staying alive, having to allocate that log. Luckily, he was able to get off a hit on the Hog with the log as well. Ended up being an okay trade for him.
The predictive fireball from Guanic not finding its target, being a little bit tight, but still he does have the tower advantage, and here's going to get pretty much all the way.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have fireballed there. I understand what Frost was going for, but he didn't get it off in time to really push the guards away, and that left him wanting 4 elixir right here. And now that princess, oh wow.
Nice pick up, the Ice Golem stopping what could have been a devastating tower lock from the princess. This battle's becoming very, very interesting. 2 Hog Rider decks, both very quick. One completely traditional, one that has some elements that are unique compared to some Hog Rider decks.
Yeah, and that was a great fireball that he was able to actually get that hit on the Hog. Wow.
Wow. So many close swings off by 1. And this is huge. The princess does get 1 shot off. And right now with 1:40 left, every single hit point matters so much.
Yes, and now exactly. Oh, wow. See, he goes for a fireball at the river, whereas Frost gets one on the tower.
And the Hog Rider does get a swing. So now we are just 31 hit points separating these 2 teams. It's going to be a real question now of who plays tighter, who plays cleaner, and who makes the best defensive decisions. And right now, again, it's the cannon picking up the Princess, but a fireball, and now at 112, and all Guanic has to do is defend.
And the Princess still locked on the tower. Really great defense by Frost. He was really in complete control of all the units there, but that last Princess coming through, locking on the tower, is probably going to be GG for him.
There's one swing, the fireball. Oh my God! The swing and the fireball! Frost pulling it out, the defense not being done properly.
Losing it, jumping up and down, running around this arena. They take the win. Frost, despite the nerves, despite being behind, takes the win and gives 100 Thieves that first victory. They are no longer without one W.
Frost losing his mind right now. The pressure so high in that moment. It really looked like he'd lost the match there. Lost the game. This was going to go to another one, but clutching it there in the very final seconds. We need to see that whole finish again. That was unbelievable.
I cannot believe it. Gilgamesh, PT-105, Eddie, and of course Frost taking the victory and celebrating like champions. They might only have one win, but my goodness, did they appreciate this one win more than any other team's appreciated any of theirs.
And Guanic cannot believe it. He was just one fireball, and just as I was about to comment on his cycle being just a little bit too long, that making it difficult in that moment, a slight defensive error, didn't have the responses to that Hog Rider. It gets one hit, and that's all it needed to make room for a fireball.
They were neck and neck for so long, Rich. It was so close, and finally that one play separating everything. NRG cannot believe it. Guanic cannot believe it. And honestly, neither can Frost.
Neither can Frost. And here we go. This was kind of the story. This seemed like it might have been it. The missed cannon play, not pulling the Hog Rider, giving a really nice, having to spend so much, giving a nice lead early on to Guanic. And then again, this fireball missing. And you're sitting here going with two major misplays like that. Frost has to be out of it. But here is the end. And just not able to stop the Hog Rider. You see there, that the Princess Tower had aggroed onto the Ice Golem.
Yes.
And if it had taken the Hog Rider instead, that would have been GG, the opposite direction.
Oh my goodness, those are, and people ask why I use the term micro interactions instead of just interactions. That's why. Those plays are so small. The difference of something you almost can't even control is what decided the game. We saw an Ice Golem take out a tower this week, and today we saw an Ice Golem take a bullet for a Hog. 100 Thieves, 1-6. 5.
1-5, and that's a big one to have. And the hero of today's story, a guy who has been really showing off in head-to-head, and that's been a great move to put him there. Let's go to Christy St. John, standing by with Frost.
Thanks, guys. What a roller coaster of emotions. Take me through it, man, from the start of that match to the end.
Going in game one, I was really confident. We had constructed the deck really well, and he played exactly what we expected, so everything went according to plan. And I played decently. Game two, I had a very, very hard counter to him. Like, I had complete matchup. I played terribly. My hands were so numb that I couldn't feel them. And
your hands were numb?
Yeah, I was trying to drink water, and I couldn't drink the water because my hand was so shaky. So it was really tough, and Guanic played amazingly. He's a really good player, so I'm really happy to get our first win.
Feeling great, am I right?
Yes, I feel amazing right now.
Oh, that W. Oh, that W.
Finally.
Good strategy, great game. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Christy. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say. You see, he went off meta to try to counter hard in the first game. And we talked about that. It went off perfectly. And then he switches to probably one of the best-known decks in all of Clash Royale.
Right.
And despite two major misplays, takes advantage and gets the win in probably one of the most exciting fashions we've seen here at CRL.
Yeah, you can't help but really respect the sportsmanship, acknowledging how well Guanic played, acknowledging the mistakes he made. But today, Frost came out on top. And honestly, after an interview like that, I can't imagine anyone that deserved it more.
And take a look at the standings. No movement here, but very important. There are no zeros in the left-hand column of CRL North America anymore. 100 Thieves taking their first victory.
And you look, NRG's played the most games here at 7 matches, despite only winning 2. And as you said, 100 Thieves taking that very first one, putting them at 1-5, still in 8th place. But hopefully for them, it's going to be a downhill rolling snowball from here on out.
If that didn't convince you to hit subscribe on the Clash Royale Esports YouTube page, I don't know what will. Okay, fine. Go to esports.clashroyale.com if you want something different. Swipe over to your Clash Royale Esports tab in your app. So many ways to follow the insane action here in CRL North America and EU and all around the world. We will be back Tuesday, September 18th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for more action in the North American region. For Andrew Guy, I'm Rich Slayton. And wow, let's take a rest. We'll see you back next week in the arena.
Bye.
The day is done. The sun has set. Never say never. Another Clash Royale League battle has been decided. We have seen the victorious achieve glory and the defeated crushed beneath the rubble of their own towers. We are nearly halfway through the CRL season, and now the intensity is really turning up. During the weeks ahead, teams will fight to earn a spot in the playoffs. And guess what? You can watch it all by simply subscribing to the Clash Royale Esports channel. And remember, never ever trust a gang of goblins with your cannon cart. It's a lesson I learned the hard way.